The next topic, it's about something very interesting. Martin Naumann from Archeologic, he's software engineer at Archeologic, will talk about the yesterday, today, and tomorrow future of the web. And the title of this talk is "The Web is Dead, Long Live the Web." You'll see it's the second hot topic after the DevOps. Now we have something about the web. So. Yes, okay. Okay, Martin.
Okay, sweet. Woo!
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, how are you feeling? Everything's fine? All right, I highly recommend fasten your seatbelts because this is going to be quite a whirlwind tour, but it's definitely worth sticking around. And I'm trying to make it as entertaining as possible now that we have this late hour in the evening, afternoon already. Anyway, so yeah, hi, I'm Martin. I'm working as a software engineer at Archeologic, which is a startup from Zurich, Switzerland. What we're doing is we do WebGL visualizations in the browser for real estate, and it's interactive, and you can try it out. If you have a floor plan and it's smaller than 200 square meters, try it out for free. I really, really love the web, and you're going to see why in a second. But yeah, so what the hell is this web? And if you talk with a lot of different people, you actually hear a lot of different definitions. And that's the reason why there's a lot of confusion and actually a lot of friction when it comes talking about the web. And that's also why I picked this talk title, because a lot of people go like, yeah, let's just go for it. We are defeated. Screw this. Other people go like, no. It's native versus web, and it's like, no. Web has to become native, and all sorts of discussions. So let's actually see what the web really is. So if you ask Wikipedia for what the World Wide Web, which is the longer form of web, really is, it starts with introducing you, okay, it's a protocol, HTTP, and it's URLs that figure out where something lives on this web, and then it's HTML. And later they went like, okay, fine, it's also CSS. Oh, and it's the DOM. Oh, and JavaScript, you know. So it grew a bit, but I don't think this is really the web as we consider it. And then there's many people who go like, the web, that stuff that lives in my browser. And then there's these browser wars going on, and people fight about what's the best browser, or we make fun of the little poor Internet Explorer, which is actually getting better. And with Microsoft Edge, we have something that is really, really looking interesting. And so I went like, nah, these things do not really fit what I think when I think about the web. So I sat down and thought about, what is the web for me? And I came up with basically, it's different things. And it falls into two categories, really. It falls into the static stuff that works and has been working 25 years ago just as fine. So in 1991, when it became publicly available, really, there were websites, and they were more or less documents. And they were pretty boring, but they had one killer feature, which is you could, without leaving your browser, you could go from one document to another. And that was pretty cool. And we're still having that. Like, if I want to know if, I don't know, the swimming pool of our hotel is open, I can go to a website, and this content doesn't change that often. And it's more or less static. And I'm not really there to interact with it. All I want to get is some information out of it. And that's still the case. People keep forgetting that, but it is still the case that you have stuff where you just want some information. You're not going to go interact with this thing any further than clicking a couple of links to figure out what you want to know from this website. And then obviously there's applications, so that's dynamic content if you want. And that's literally coming from the fact that installing applications and actually migrating them between different systems is actually very, very annoying. And you have a couple of applications that you want to use everywhere and on every device, and putting those into the browser makes sense because it's more or less a ubiquitous environment that works more or less everywhere. So that's a different thing. And these two are so fundamentally different that mixing them and mixing techniques to build them is actually quite a problem. And that's a lot of the source of a lot of frustration for a lot of people, and the source of a lot of disagreement. I was discussing this topic yesterday briefly with someone else on this conference, and we agreed on certain things, but then I had to sort of go on about, but. there's also this other thing where you have static content and then it doesn't really matter. Or there's this other thing where you have dynamic content and then this aspect doesn't matter. So I think it's important to actually keep them apart. And then there's some stuff that is generally true for the web, what I believe. And one is it should be vendor independent. There should not be one source of what I would call truth, and it shouldn't be one vendor, it shouldn't be one company. Because what happens when you have one company, we're going to see later on, because it has already happened in the past. And if you remember these brilliant, this website is best viewed in Internet Explorer 6 on Windows 98, and on a screen resolution of 1024 pixels by 768 pixels, that's not what I want to be the web, okay? So it has to be independent from a single source of power, and it has to be open. And with open, I mean, I should have the possibility to change things. I should have the possibility to express myself without having to ask anyone for permission, really, right? So if I put something on the App Store, and Google, Apple, Microsoft go, nah, don't think so, and they kick me off, there's nothing I can do. If someone doesn't like my website, well, tough luck. Sure, there's DMCA takedowns, but then I just move it to a different server. Have fun. So yeah, and it has to be decentralized, because this is another thing. So if it is not decentralized, it's hard to keep it open. If all I have to post stuff online is Facebook, I am again relying on Facebook to provide me with some hosting and to provide me with the capability to keep this on and keep accessing it. And if it's centralized, that might be more convenient, but it's also actually very bad, because it means I'm giving away control, and that may actually at some point tie you back into a closed system, and that's not a good thing. So this is my definition of the web. It has to be open, it has to be vendor independent. So if I decide, hey, screw all these browsers, I'm going to build my own, I should be able to do so. It will suck, but at least I have the possibility to do so. Yeah, so having this in mind, this will be our journey. So I'm going to quickly rush through where the web came from and what was before the web. I'm then going to discover what we are doing today and what's not so great about some things that we're doing today. And then I'm going to give a quick look by taking a very short run through 3 different technologies that are coming to the web soon-ish, trademark, and will actually make us more powerful and hopefully more web-ish. Anyway, so in the past, who here has seen something like this in the past? Nice. It was so much fun, wasn't it? It was time for a coffee break, really. That was quite nice. And actually, it wasn't that nice. So back in the days, and I think this is CompuServe. Yeah, this is CompuServe. The web, before the web was actually the web, it would look like this. This is called an online service. So you get a subscription to one of these online services, be it Prodigy or AOL or CompuServe, and you get a tool that you install from a disk onto your computer, and it gives you this window, and the only things that you can do are defined by your online service, and they curate the content for you. And it might sound familiar. It's like, yeah, it's brilliant, because you know, searching there is easy, and it's curated content, so I don't have to worry that the quality is better or anything. Yeah, it was so successful that we're not doing it anymore. Instead, 1990s, Tim Berners-Lee went like, you know what would be cool? If everyone could sort of share their research documents, and we could link them, and we could, you know, build a web of stuff. And so I really think that would be cool. So he set up this computer, and on the tiny little white sticker on there, it actually says, do not turn this off. This is the internet. So yeah, you turn this one off, which is fun, because we have a cleaning person in the office that every Thursday comes in, and we have a couple of GPU rendering servers in our office, and they would go down every Thursday. And we're like, what's going on here? And at some point, I was in the office, and I was sitting there, and it's like, damn it, it's not working again, so let me go over. And there was this cleaning guy vacuuming. I'm like, where did you get the power socket for it? Oh, there's our service gone too. So yeah, that was fun. And that could have brought down the internet at some point. Anyway, coming back, so Tim Berners-Lee imagined this and went like, this should be open and shared and I'm not going to charge for it. Imagine what would have happened if he would have charged license fees. It would probably not have caught on so quickly, because in 1997, so 7 years later, or actually 6 years if you start with when browsers and stuff became available, we had more than 1 million websites, and that actually grew very, very quickly, and it was sort of the hockey stick thing where it went through the roof. And the first website from back then is actually still available, and I can prove you if the internet is still working. And it looks like this. I mean, it doesn't look like, I don't know, Web 2.0, whatever, but it works. And you can click the links, and it actually takes you to places, and it works. So that's quite nice as well. And that's what the web is about for me. It is about collaborating with others and being able to share information with as less friction as possible. And the friction is very, 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 very low on the web, because all you have to do is you have this text blob that even can actually be a link that you can click on, and you send this tiny little bit of information around, and people actually open it with their browser, and it takes them somewhere, and that can be the hub to enter other places as well. So that's really, really cool. I don't have to install much. I have to have a browser, which actually ships with most of the operating systems today. So well, that's pretty cool. And again, it's also like, it's not just sharing information as in I can consume this stuff, but I can also contribute, because nothing in the world stops me from actually putting some files on the web and serve them to other people as well. And today it's easier and cheaper than ever, because you can use GitHub Pages or Surge or whatever, where you just take your files and say like, put them under this URL and it will appear online for free, and you can share it with the whole world. And that's really, really cool, and it's really, really powerful, and we should not forget about this. Because a lot of people go like, hey, have you checked out this awesome app? And I'm like, well, I'm on a laptop. I don't even, my smartphone is charging somewhere. I don't care, because, yeah, I'm going to tell you later how I like it. And then you click the link, and it's like, oh, iTunes. Well, I've got Android. So I don't know if this app is cool or not, and I can't tell for the life of me, because I'm not having an iOS device. The reverse is true as well. I mean, if I send people who are on iOS an Android link, they go like, yeah, looks good on the screenshot, I guess. So there is more friction involved here. Even if it actually is for my operating system, I still have to go to the Play Store, hit download, download the thing, wait until it's downloaded, then it installs on my device, and then it might not have enough space on the device, and it's horrible. Anyway, and the cool thing is, so a lot of applications that you have to install on platforms do not work when a major platform upgrade comes. Like, hey, have you checked out this awesome app? Oh, your phone is 2 years old. The hell? That shouldn't be a real argument to make here, especially if it's a high-end phone from like 4 years ago. What the hell is wrong with you if that doesn't work on my hardware? It might be slow. Taking that, okay, sure. But I mean, come on, right? And this thing here, most of the websites that are done quite well work even still on line mode browsers or text mode browsers. And there's this brilliant website called Déjà Vu browser emulator. And what you can do there is, and I love it, so you get a bunch of, that's the most 90s picture I've ever seen, but okay, let's move on. You can do things like, hey, how about Mosaic? So this is Mosaic Netscape, very, very old browser. And I can't even figure out how can I actually, oh yeah, okay, it's one of the better ones because I can already type in a URL. And I can go, for instance, I can go on my website, and I'll see something. Unless it goes, nope. Okay, so yeah, there's a bunch of CSS that it doesn't understand, but I can scroll past this, and ta-da, all the content is there, including my picture, and I can go, okay, so where will I be speaking next? And I can click here, and it all works. It looks shit, but it works, right? Rather than it just gives me nothing or goes like, nope, you have to buy a new phone, right? There's also Hot Java. Who has ever used Hot Java? I met a couple of people who have ever used Hot Java, and it's a brilliant thing because it has been written in Java and it looks fancy. Look at those buttons, right? That's fancy stuff. But again, I can go to my website and it will just, work. Okay, still the CSS support is not there, but the website works, and I can obtain the information I want. So this category of content, as we have defined, there's two categories of content, the static ones and the dynamic ones. The dynamic ones might not work on this one, given that. Or they even might work to a certain extent. So for instance, we are doing WebGL stuff. And in these browsers, we're just serving an image. But you still get a 3D rendering of an apartment in your browser, even if you decide to still browse on hot.java because you like the buttons so much. So that's pretty cool. And let's move on to the present then. So that's me enjoying the internet. And there's this brilliant topic of, so Martin, what do you have to learn to become a web developer? And a lot of people are super frustrated, like, hey, why aren't you building stuff for the web? Oh, you have to learn so much stuff, like, I don't know, you go to Hacker News, which is a wrong step already, but okay. You go to Hacker News and you read the thread, and there's a lot of people fighting over what technology you have to use, and that changes every week, right? There's this thing like days since the new JavaScript framework came out, and it continuously is 0, 1, or 2, and that's the only 3 states that it ever gets to. And I think this is bullshit. This is going the wrong way. This, by the way, is Sao Paulo Airport, and it's hilarious that they have a sign that actually says wrong way, and you're like, thanks. I figured that one out. But yeah, you're going the wrong way if you think that's web development, right? All you actually need to be a web developer is at least HTML. If you want to make it slightly more shiny, sure, learn some CSS. You don't have to, you know? It's cool. Just go with HTML, and it looks crap, but it tells a story, and it actually gives me the content. Sweet. I'll go with that. If it looks nicer, even cooler. If it even does some fancy stuff, then when I actually have JavaScript available, even better. But it's not that you have to have all of this on your list. It's start with HTML and grow from there. And it's very, very easy. And that's something that I would advise everyone to do, because the whole rest of that stuff, so this slide here, yes, this is all useful in some context. The problem is if you don't know what your actual problem is, if you don't know where the pain comes from or what you can't do, where your limitation is, and you start with nothing, then just go with these 3, step by step. And then you'll figure out, like, oh, before you invent stuff yourself, you can then check this long list of stuff and go like, what could be the solution for my particular problem? Like, oh, Jesus, my CSS looks horrible on different devices, on different screen sizes. What can I do about it? And then you might figure out, oh, there's actually something like normalized CSS, and then I can take, I don't know, Bootstrap or something. Pick whatever fits your needs. Don't go for the hype. Okay? There's no silver bullet. None of those technologies and none of the frameworks and none of the libraries will always solve all of your problems. Figure out what your problems are and find the solution that actually matches the problem at hand. And then obviously, things change. So for instance, like 3 years ago, for a lot of things, I would have said like, Backbone is quite cool, yeah, sweet, nice stuff. And now, if there's a particularly tricky problem with data binding or something, maybe go with Knockout or Angular. It really depends. I can't say. Maybe it's React. I don't know. It depends on your problem, right? I solve problems with React. Nice. But it's not the one-stop shop. It's not the one thing that will rule it all and make it all go fine. And so keep learning. Keep trying out new stuff. See if you like it. If you don't like it, don't worry. Don't write a rant about it, but just go like, yeah, no, it's not for me. It's cool, but it's not really my thing. It's fine. Right, so I built a thing because I got bored at some point, and this is how it works. So this is what you get when you have nothing available. If I screwed up my JavaScript, or if you're on a shaky mobile connection, you get an image that is taken in a panoramic way, and it renders. So the server is a bit slow, but the first byte comes in after 0.48 seconds, 458 seconds. And the rendering of the image starts at 0.593 seconds. That's pretty quick. And that's nice, because you get to see something. You come there like, oh, Martin wants to show me a place where he has been. So click on the link, you get that, and you're like, okay, that's a bit boring, but nice. It's probably a cathedral or something. Now, if you have no WebGL on your computer, you get this warning that may help you actually set up WebGL so that you can experience the full thing, but you again still get this image, and you're like, okay, so there's an image, and yeah, okay, now I can't be bothered to actually get WebGL now. But if you have WebGL, you get this, and you can actually look around, and you now see this is a cathedral in Palma de Mallorca that I have recently been to, and It's quite nice. And you can check it out. You can turn around and you can see things. And it even has the support for Google Cardboard or Oculus Rift, so you can even put on that and actually move your head around to look around. And that's pretty cool. It's free. Try it out. Just, play around with it. Submit bug reports. It's on GitHub and stuff. So yeah. And there's a lot of stuff that the web can do and that a lot of people don't even know about. So as I'm not having that much time, I'm just going to give you, these slides are online, you can check them out later on, but there's these tons of things that you can do with web and even more, but these are the ones that I picked that people often forget about. So you can store stuff locally. You can use app cache to have your application run even if you're not online, if you're not having internet. Be careful with app cache, it's a bit of a bastard sometimes, but it gets the trick done. There's local storage, IndexedDB, PouchDB, which allow you to do things like synchronizing when you're online and storing things offline and brilliant shit. There's sensors. There's a lot of sensors. You can get the camera. You can pick which camera on the phone you get. You can pick the microphone. You can get where the user is on the local from the location. You can get the gyroscope and compass data, so you can figure out if he's shaking or she's shaking the device, or which way it's actually oriented, or which way the user is looking at. We have 3D that I've already covered, and you can do things like local notifications, so desktop notifications popping up about something. So that's all quite nice. And I built this thing to prove my point, which is, so now I pick the camera, and I can now blend the camera image with 3D content based on, based on the rotation in space. So that's quite nice, and Google did more nicer demos with a real solar system and stuff. I couldn't be bothered, I just put random colored cubes in. But that's web, that runs from the browser, and that's quite nice. And then, speaking of mobile, so that was on a mobile phone. Oftentimes when I surf the web on mobile, I get these experiences. So I either get nothing, because people couldn't be bothered to actually build a web application and pick Flash. Thanks. Or I get a bit of content, but mostly I get, hey, have you heard about our app? Yes, I did, and I choose the web, so fuck off. Which takes a lot of screen estate as well. Or I get a website that isn't optimized for mobile at all and doesn't really work either. Brilliant, thanks. If you do that, not cool, because I'll be this, right? And you don't want me to do that. Or if you want, I'm gonna charge you for it. Anyway. So please do not put in slow ads, lots of scripts, large stuff like put in incredibly huge images or something like that. Do not bother me with app installations. If I know what's the App Store, I know that you're probably on the App Store because everyone is on the App Store these days. So if I want your app, I would have downloaded it. Get out of my way with your freaking apps, seriously. Especially if it's an exotic airline at the other end of the world and you're like, I have to check in, and you go on the website, on the mobile website, and it says like, no, you can't check in here, you have to actually go to our mobile app. And you go into the mobile app, and all it is a packaged version of their freaking mobile website that then has the functionality to actually check me in. What, right? Get out of my way, seriously. So yeah, there's a couple of things that apps are said to be better. And this is Twitter. And I very often get this, and people go like, you know what, web sometimes really sucks, but native is really, really cool. Really? Well, I mean, it's a very clean interface. And I find it very ironic that it says, what's happening down there? Because that's what I'm asking myself as well, Twitter. Get your act together, seriously, right? So that can happen on native as well. And they say, okay, you have offline. Yeah, the web can do that. But you have a native look and feel. Well, most of the time you customize it anyways, and I don't care about the look and feel as long as it gets my job done. And it's very user-friendly installation process, and I'm going to show you what I think about that one. And the performance is also much better. And the performance argument is brilliant, because a lot of people go like, yeah, you can actually do web stuff, but only for like very simple applications, like to-do list applications or something. If you have something with real performance requirements, you can't do it on the web. Like, so, like what? Like, you know, games or 3D. 3D, you say? Well, in which case, so this is web. You see on the home screen, okay, now we're actually moving around in our apartment. That's actually our tool that we are using, or building. So yeah, you can move around by tapping the screen. You can use multi-touch gestures to actually change zoom level or move through the apartments you can change. So you see there's a home screen icon, I tap it and I get a full screen application. And in the launcher as well, it says Archeologic. So I don't know about you, but that looks like a 3D application. And I think it works pretty well. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe web is fine for performance. Anyway. And then there's other argument about the installation experience. Okay, so I moved to Zurich 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 years ago, and I needed to find a public transportation app because public transport in Switzerland is just awesome. You don't need a car because public transport takes you anywhere on time. In Germany, it takes you anywhere but not on time, and in other countries, it often doesn't take you anywhere and not on time. But in Switzerland, that works quite well. So I went to the App Store, and there were like 4 different apps for Zurich, and I'm like, okay, this one. And I downloaded the first one, and it downloaded it, and it installed it on my phone, and I tapped on the home screen, and I tapped into the app, and it was shit. Back to one. Second one, installs, or downloads, installs, tap on the home screen, tap into the app, and it's shit. And I kept going like that, and at some point I'm like, can't this be over? And I then just went straight to the web, and I went like, I don't know, ZVV, which is the local transport thingy. Click, click, nah, this is shit. Back, click. Okay, this one is good. I'm gonna stick with this one. That's less friction. I'm sorry. Right? Do not bind me into anything, and do not make me commit a couple of minutes when I can commit just seconds to figure out if your app is shit or not. Duh. Anyway, so yeah. There's a couple of essential mobile web tricks, and if you have seen the other application, this didn't have any browser Chrome, and it had a home screen icon and stuff. So to get that working, you use what's called the meta tag web app capable, and you get that on it's Apple Apple web app capable, mobile web app capable for iOS, but you get that on iOS as well, and it works quite well. You can also work around most of the loading times or rendering times by just making it move a bit, and people will be like, oh, it does stuff. Oh yeah, that was really fast. There's this story of an application that had 250 milliseconds delay to fetch data from the server, and it would show a small spinner for 250 milliseconds, and everyone was like, it's slow. And so they're like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna fade out something that says searching, and then we're gonna fade it back in. So at the same time, it took 250 milliseconds to do that, but people are like, wow, that works like really snappy. So it's perceptive psychology all the way. Test with your users, and you will find ways around actually getting this feeling that things are slow. Use app cache so it works offline. Service worker is something that I'm going to cover in a second. That's really, really cool, and it fixes all the problems with app cache, which there are many. You can store data locally, and that's really cool, and use meta viewport to actually get it fit small screens nicely. So this is another demonstration of WebKit capable. I'm going to skip that for a second because you've seen an example already. So now we go into the future. And I picked 3 technologies that are upcoming and I think are very interesting. They're not finished yet, and they have a couple of problems yet, but I think we're going to have awesome stuff available soonish. So let's start with Service Worker. So Service Worker is basically a JavaScript that registers with your page and gets called whenever you sort of move between different sub-pages of your website, or actually you can carry out background activity. So you can wake your application up and run this JavaScript file every now and then to check if there's updates or something. This is also the requirement to have push notifications later on. And here in our application, we say, okay, is Service Worker available? Yes, so we're going to register our Service Worker.js file. And if that works, then we have a registration and we are fine. If that doesn't work, then yeah, screw this, then we try next time. So the browser, when it fails, the browser will try on the next page load anyways. If it already is installed, it's not going to try again. And the Service Worker looks more or less like this. So you have a reference to the actual file, and you have a couple of events. So for instance, the install event is actually running when it's first installed on the device. And here what we're doing is we're waiting until we have a cache opened, and then when we have this cache instance, we can actually put a couple of URLs in the cache, so it's going to download them and put them on the local file system and keeps them. It doesn't delete them unless I explicitly say it should delete them, which is quite nice. And then we can do things like this. So if I go to a certain website that was in one of these URLs that we have just cached, that we can ask the cache, hey, do you know this URL? And if it does, it's going to give us the response object, so we can directly respond and load this from the local storage. Versus if we don't, then we just fetch it. And then we can obviously also put it in the cache, so this is a very, very simple example. Summary, it gives you controllable power over the cache, and I'm running out of time, but I'm gonna do it really quickly. It's controlled offline behavior, so app cache, for instance, does not check if you're online or not, it just cuts it off. With Service Worker, you can go like, am I online? Yes, okay, I'm gonna fetch new stuff. I'm offline, okay, I'm gonna use my local cache. It also allows for background activity, as I said, but it requires the website to have HTTPS. But for instance, GitHub pages for free, again, give you HTTPS for free. Push notifications look more or less like this. So this is outside of the Service Worker. We ask our Service Worker to give us a push manager and give us a subscription that will possibly ask the user, hey, do you want to actually have push notifications from this website? Yes. So if that worked, we get a subscription. If not, we don't. The subscription ID we send to our server and use it for Google Cloud Messaging. It's only Google Cloud Messaging, unfortunately. It's not APNS or anything else yet. So we have to tell our server that it can push stuff to this client with this particular ID. Think of it as an ID. And if a push notification arrives, we sort of get all the data together, and then we can say show notification, and it actually pops into the native notification center. But this is currently only Google Chrome, and it's not a standard yet, but they are pushing forward to actually make it a standard and make it independent from Google Cloud Messaging. So that's a bit of a problem at the moment, but I think we're going to get it fixed soon. But it requires a service worker, and it currently requires an account with Google Cloud Messaging. Then there's web components, and this is quite cool because if you're sort of composing applications that are supposed to be on the client anyways and not have a server, and you want these applications and not just static content, you want to sort of compose them from components. And this is the browser native implementation of components. So you hear in the first 3 lines, we load components from somewhere, which are basically just HTML files with all sorts of resources in there. And then we put them together, like we can either extend elements that are already there, like button. Button is image, button is then a button that shows an image as well. A tab box is something that has multiple tabs in there, and then you have a couple of tabs with content in there. So you can write HTML and extend it. So basically you can create new HTML tags yourself. And it looks more or less like this. So we create a prototype object, and then we register a new element with the name of the tag and this particular prototype, and say if it extends something or not. And it's actually 4 standards. It's a template element, it's a shadow DOM, it's custom elements, it's HTML imports. There's a lot of documentation on the web, or just ask me after this talk. There's polyfills available for all browsers. There's mixed browser support, like Firefox and Chrome support most of it. Safari is far behind, and there's a lot of contention, so there's a lot of discussion going on. But it's going to happen more or less soon. And yeah, so let's wrap up. Figure out what the user actually wants from you. Just static information, or actually work with your application, and what's the primary purpose why he's interacting with your application or she's interacting with your application. If you figure that one out, give the simplest solution possible. Do not do any fancy stuff. Do not do single-page applications if you really don't have to. Then enhance as much as you can if there's capability available. And please make sure that you keep it open and keep it free, and get in there, complain to the browser vendors, complain to the standards bodies, make sure that you are heard, and you really, really are heard if you just keep pushing. And make sure that we have an open, decentralized web that everyone can contribute to, and make sure that we're not getting trapped by companies that don't care about us, but all about their money in the end. So the web is for everybody. It's not bound to any particular technology. Let's keep it that way. Thank you very much. Slides are online.